Welcome back to DevelopLex, where we are going to unpack real estate development, economic development, and community development. I'm Ross. I'm a Lexington-based real estate developer, obsessed about places, people, and the policy that shapes the built environment and how we experience our home. Today's episode is a bit different. We're going to unpack the Commerce Lexington 2025 leadership visit to Madison, Wisconsin, and talk about what we saw, we heard, and what we felt there. It was an immersive trip with 165 of the top civic and business leaders in Lexington. And if you're a real estate person, policymaker, entrepreneur, or somebody that just gives a damn about the city and the future of Lexington, this episode's for you. There's something neat about when communities go and study another city. It's saying, we admire what you're doing, and Lexington's been doing this longer than any other leadership visit or whatever the chambers call them locally. But we got together early one morning at Bluegrass Airport, flew an entire plane of the folks from Lexington that want to see Lexington be a model city and see potential of what Lexington could be. So we flew up to Madison, Wisconsin, and it was designed with intent, one that wasn't afraid to evolve. And we touched down in Madison, a city wrapped with the lakes. There's two lakes that piece everything together, and you're going to hear from some folks that talk about the university town, the capital district, the downtown, and all of the economic potential that's there. So driving in, it had a little bit of the Washington, D.C. characteristics, and we immediately got to the Moody Center, where we got to hear from Jason, that you'll hear from now.
We are a very young city. The average age of a Madisonian is 31. Yes, we have the highest proportion of highest proportion of Gen Z new workers of any city in the country. About 6,000 just last year moved to Madison. That's net. We lost about 1,000, gained 7,000. People are moving here in droves. Also, the university is a large part of that. University continues to be very hot and very grow. The university has 52,000 students. That's the highest amount they've ever had in their history. So significantly young population. This growth in Gen Z is really being driven by a lot of high-tech and particularly health tech companies. One of the largest employers in town is a group called Epic Healthcare System. Please raise your hand if you use my chart. Exactly, that's from Madison. Please raise your hand if you've never been to the doctor. No, I'm just kidding. That's another question. You can figure that out yourselves. So obviously, Epic Healthcare Systems is one of the major employers in town. It's the second largest. The biggest is UW Healthcare, which formerly was based here on campus and now has a strong partnership with the University of Wisconsin. We have groups like American Family Insurance and Trek Bikes and Sub-Zero. And yes, I did use a Trek bike to get here today. So yes, anyone a bike commuter? One of the key features of Madison is that we're on an isthmus. Let's say that all together. Isthmus. There you go. We are one of only two cities in America on an isthmus. Who knows the other? Seattle. You must have gone to Seattle recently. We have significant voter turnout, oftentimes above 90% for elections. Yes. Thank you. I do vote twice, so that does help. Yes. Who wrote these notes for me? We were once named America's greenest city, once. Apparently we are not anymore. One tradition, though, that we all love here. Does anyone know, it's probably on your sheet in front of you, does anyone know what the official bird is of the city of Madison? Fantastic, not on the sheet in front of you. It's actually not a bird. It's the plastic pink flamingo. In 1976, a bunch of pranksters on UW campus filled Bascom Mall, which is right there, the hill, right? Well, you guys have been here for an hour, so it's behind you, trust me. They filled it with over 1,000 plastic flamingos as a prank in the middle of the night. And that prank stuck, and the city of Madison about 20 years ago officially named the plastic flamingo as our bird. I could not recommend it more. It goes around all 8 blocks of the Capitol Square. It is so busy that we've had to close down streets on the outside, and it gets, according to Placer AI, 25,000 people on good weekend days in the summer. Significant economic impact. All right, you know us for what? Beer, yeah, okay, and cheese, right? But did you know that University of Wisconsin offers you a degree in cheese making? This is very serious business here, right? All joking aside, Dane County, the county that we're in currently, is the second largest dairy producing county in the state, in what we call the dairy state. California has other ideas because they actually produce more dairy than us. Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. We also, in 2022 in downtown, had the world's largest cheese board, which people could all go and consume. Linda, we should have done that for this trip. Yes. That joke didn't land. Anyway, one fun activity in the summer, but don't worry, it's not right now, is we have the world's largest naked bike ride. I'll leave it at that. It's not happening while you're here. I did literally bike. My bike helmet is in the back. We are a platinum bike-friendly city. We have trails everywhere you go, much to the chagrin of some of the drivers because we have taken over, God forbid, part of the road. But we have over 200 miles of paths here in the area. I couldn't recommend them more. One of my favorites is actually right out here. If you need a walk, head out to Picnic Point. So if you look behind you, that peninsula where that boat is going right by it, that's called Picnic Point, fully owned by the university, something called the Lakeshore Path right here. You literally can go all the way out there. It's about a mile away. It is like leaving the city like that with lakes on both sides. It's very thin. You'll love it. So check out Picnic Point.
We're 6th in the country for our total research expenditures. We're a research powerhouse, and we're really proud of that. But this will also let us grow our engineering student body by about 1,000 students, and so make a dent in providing some of the workforce needs in this space. And one of the floors of this building will bring industry into our space and actually have spaces for industry partners to have a presence on campus, which is something that we haven't done before in our engineering school. So that's another example of the kinds of partnerships that, when they work, can be win-win-win.
SV & Stone Commercial Real Estate is a full-service commercial real estate firm located in Lexington, Kentucky. Affiliated with the SVN International Network, SVN has over 200 offices across the globe. The SV & Stone team consists of experienced commercial real estate advisors in the heart of the Bluegrass. SVN helps their clients with commercial property sales, leasing, investments, and property management. Let SVN help you with your commercial real estate needs. Check us out at svnstone.com.
This trip wasn't just something to admire, but it was something to mirror. Find all of the things that they're doing really well, and let's bring them back. So, one of the things that Jennifer Mnookin, the Chancellor, brought up was cities that win align themselves across leadership, civic, academic, and business lines. And that's not just some sort of, we have this partnership on paper, but you really have to be in sync. And the 165-ish people that came on this trip were part of that. So we're asking you to be a part of figuring out what Lexington's rhythm is and stepping into it with us. We are missing the vision for what's possible, and this trip should be inspirational to what Lexington could be. As you go on trips, bring back the best of the ideas. Don't be afraid to put all of the random friends from Lexington in a group chat and say, this is what we just saw. Let's make this thing happen. We need to have the vision in Lexington that says we are going to be a model city for the rest of America to watch and study, just the way that we went up to Madison and studied it. So let's jump into a couple conversations about the economic impact that their largest employers have in Madison and the Madison area.
Tourism, I mean, everything starts with a visit. So if someone's coming to live here or work here or play here, they're going to start with a visit. So that's so important to our entire community. And also it's bringing in economic dollars that wouldn't be here otherwise. And there weren't a lot of great out of COVID, but one of them is the destination realized how important that visitor is. The thing about tourism, it's an invisible industry. Outside of a few events and things I'm sure like you have in Lexington, so for instance, we host every year the Ironman. Everyone knows when Ironman's in town because they have the calf sleeves and the whole outfits that we know. But a majority of our conferences, much like you all here today, other than maybe they might notice an accent, anyone doesn't realize you're from somewhere else. And so without that dollar coming into the community, we wouldn't have the quality of life that our residents have. We're very fortunate in Madison, much like I know you are in Lexington, that we rank at the top of many, many lists. And it's such a great place to live and work and play. But all of that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for those visitor dollar coming in that affords us to have places and amenities that we have here.
So once we get people here as a visitor and they decide they want to be a resident, we need to make sure there's a job and a job that then supports the housing that's possible. We heard a lot about housing on this trip and affordability, attainability, the drives to and from the workplace and how that is. And I want you to know that no city has really figured this out yet, but it doesn't mean Lexington can't be the first. One of the things that really was present in the conversations in Madison was about how proud they are of Epic Systems, a healthcare IT company, and the ecosystem that's built out around it. Epic is is their largest employer with about 14,000 people on campus every single day. One of the interesting things about Epic is that it's actually in Verona, Wisconsin. It's just outside of Madison. And that's big because Madison claims them, but they're actually not there. That's regionalism in practice. We heard from their board that regionalism has been a tough topic for them, where they haven't been able to figure it out because Madison being very Democratic and the rest of the state being very Republican has had a lot of tensions. People run a state platform saying, we don't want to be Madison, or we don't want Madison in our community. That's had some invisible handcuffs on the region. And that's something that we're lucky enough in Lexington to have a very balanced conservative versus liberal base, so much so that our city council is still nonpartisan. That is huge. And even though there's sways that Lexington takes in one direction or the other, and how it doesn't always reflect the region or doesn't reflect the state as a whole, we as a region, Fayette County and the contiguous counties around it, have an opportunity, just like Madison has had, to build up a company that turns into our largest employer. So think about IBM. Back in the 80s, IBM put their typewriting division headquarters in Lexington. That spun off into what's now Lexmark. Lexmark has a massive campus over off of the north side of Lexington. And what's possible there is that used to be a massive job center, and it can still be. So think about this. What does a county that's around Lexington have that makes it unique? Think about Midway. Super quaint, very quiet. It's awesome. Think about Georgetown. You're right on the interstate. You have great jobs. You have all of the amenities within a close drive to Lexington. You could be in the rural land. I hope that everybody finds in this regionalism effort that we're in right now to say there isn't a community that's better than the other. We're all in this together. We're all in the central Kentucky area. And if anything, calling it Lexington, that's just shorthand. That's not actually people saying that we want to be in the Lexington boundary. That just means we're in the Lexington area, and they don't know that there's a hidden gem in Madison County. They don't realize that there's a hidden gem in Woodford County. So as we're having this regionalism conversation, know that other cities just breeze past it. They're not worried about it, and we shouldn't be worried about it either, but we should be proud of all of the community assets and the community capital that we have in the surrounding area. So land use is a very interesting thing. They are on an isthmus. That is a piece of land that's in between two lakes. There's only one other city in America that's like that. And so, as you're looking out from their capital area, their university, and their central business district, they cannot grow. And they have grown all the way to the physical shores of the lakes. And they cannot grow up either. The capital has an overlay that says you cannot grow or you cannot build higher than the Capitol building. So what did they do? They didn't fight about it. They just built. And there was a saying that said, build at whatever cost. And that's not to be radical. That's just to say, we have got to keep moving forward. There's people that we're turning away, as Madison was saying, that we're turning them away to be driving 45 minutes for a job that pays $52,000 a year. Is that the kind of city that we want to be, where people spend more time in their cars than they do experiencing life with us? I think there's a lot of parallels to Lexington there too. as we're thinking about those lakes that Madison has, we have those lakes too. But what that is horse farms. Or it's a boundary that we can't grow in. The boundary is not the problem. It's our motivation to get more creative and build inward. What's interesting is our saying in Lexington that you'll hear is grow up, not out. That's cool, but they couldn't grow out and they also couldn't grow up, but they still grew into an amazing city. And that's something that we should be ambitious enough to say, yeah, let's figure it out. Let's not just take it at face value and give up on a development plan because it didn't make it through the first round of approvals. Or let's also be careful to not shun all of the out-of-state developers that come with a creative idea that puts dwelling units in our stock and may not just be what we thought Lexington should be. Because Lexington continues to evolve. 50 years ago, New Circle was a pretty wild outskirt of Lexington. Now we're much greater than that. So let's look at how we can be more creative. Let's say, how do we say yes? And let's do something. Kurt said plainly that incentives work, and so do constraints. So if you're trying to attract data centers, advanced manufacturing, innovation districts, or just preparing the grid and zoning code, you and the public-private muscle are what comes next. And in Lexington, we should wake up and have that call. We don't really have a strong incentive package. We're in a mild climate. We're a pretty disaster-safe region. So we've got the bones to compete for the future of the cloud-based computing, advanced ag tech, sustainable manufacturing. But what we're missing isn't the desire. It's that unified systems plan. Something that if we say we want high-performing industries, we need high-performing infrastructure. And KU and LG&E are doing an awesome job to back us up on that with the backbone that they provide. And so being able to scale responsibly, we need to start thinking like builders, not just boosters. We need to have the means to confront the hard stuff. That's either utility capacity, tax strategy, permit efficiency, site readiness, land use balance. It's the stuff that's not sexy, but it's all necessary. And when we have folks that are site selectors that bring people to Lexington, and we don't have that unified front, we're just not going to attract the future, and another city will.
A house is where a job goes to sleep at night. And this is why the people really focused on housing is actually not always the planners and the community developers, it's also the business and economic development community, because you all recognize this is one of the major impediments to workforce growth and retention and recruitment, is because if you don't have a place for your workforce to live, it's pretty hard to grow jobs, right? And so housing markets are regional, but one of the thrusts of the argument that we always find is that decisions about building housing are local or even hyper-local, right? Everyone in Madison, everyone in Lexington agrees we need more housing, we need a greater variety of housing, both market rate and affordable. But not in my neighborhood. My neighborhood's full, and that neighborhood down there, that would be a really good place for that. The other important key thing to think about in terms of economic development is that over the medium term, the price of housing in a region, whether the median sales price or the median rent, is going to reflect economic fundamentals of supply and demand. And they're usually going to be capitalized into the price of land, right? And so sometimes our constituents, whether in the business community or citizens at public meetings, kind of have this really almost mystical view of how housing happens and how housing markets work. And everyone's concerned about housing prices, but the research tells us that people don't really understand how housing markets work. And so we want to think about where we are relative to everyone else. One of the things I get in trouble for is when I run around and give talks, everyone wants to say their community is unique, but I'm here to tell you that nobody is unique, right? So everybody's unique in the same way that everybody is not unique, which is to say that the price level of housing in a region almost perfectly correlates to your median household income. So wherever you fit on that rank order of household income really gives you a sense of what your strategic housing challenges are. And so it's key for every region to understand where you are, to set aspirational goals of where you want to go in the next couple of years, but to understand why your challenges look different than other communities. So this is a pretty dense data table, and I always use this to tell Madison folks where we stand. One of our challenges in Madison is we are a high-income region. And by definition, if you have a high-income region, you're going to have higher housing costs, right? We are not, as Kevin said, we are not like the coasts, but we are also not suffering from the same challenge that Milwaukee or Toledo or Detroit would face.
Craftsman Contractors is Central Kentucky's one-stop shop for roofing, windows, siding, and gutters. CraftsmanContractors.com/contact us will get you straight to the form you need so that their team will get in touch about your project. Or just text Steven at 859-246-0108. When they finish your project of windows, siding, gutters, or roofing, you'll see what they mean when they say we build with integrity. So there's a saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. And that is so true for cities, because when you're thinking about the city fabric, the very first day of a city, the very first day of a neighborhood, the very first day of a new development should not be its best day. It should season, it should patina. And that's because people that stay and grow where they're planted are going to make communities even more rich. What you're seeing in Madison is that they have 7,000 people move to Madison, 1,000 people move out. And those 6,000 people that have stayed are part of the folks that are making Madison so rich. The reason why they joke that it feels less like a representative democracy and more like a direct democracy, because everybody wants to be so involved in board service. Or there's 25,000 people that go to their farmers market every single Saturday. Chefs go and pick up all of their things, so you really have farm-to-table food everywhere in Madison. If you're not growing, you're dying. And Lexington, I don't know that we're growing. So let's figure out how we can say everybody starts as a visitor. How can we welcome them? Was it a campus tour? Was it somebody that was coming home to Lexington after their parents moved and fell in love with this town and stayed, but they didn't grow up here? We have got to find more reasons for people to come to Lexington and say, this is an amazing city. This is what a great American city is supposed to be. So what does that look like? We had a suggestion in one of the suggestion boxes put into the table that said we need to get a landmark event. One of those national sports days, something the way the Indy 500 is hosted in Indianapolis every single year, same way that the Masters is in Augusta every single year. Or it could be like how World Equestrian Games came to Lexington and was out at the horse park. Could be how Breeders' Cup was in Lexington and came on a rotation. That is something that we need to start figuring out what that is and create those landmark events so that we get more visitors that get exposure to Lexington and what's possible in Lexington, so that we might want to welcome them, or so that they might want to invite themselves in to be our neighbor.
So we talk about the 5 L's of home building. So the first is land, right? Land is really expensive because, if you wanted to build a new 6,000 square foot lot fully serviced with water and sewer that you could build a home on here in Dane County, that's at least $170,000, right? And you're not going to build anything that looks affordable when you're paying $170,000 for a lot, right? So on the land side, that is really the local government in terms of expedited permit approvals, right? We want you to get your subdivision permit in 6 months, not 6 years of public meetings, right? So we need to speed up the process. We need smaller lots. We have seen that you can bring the price point down a little bit if you have a kind of a narrower lot, so like a 40-foot lot width with an alley-loaded product. We need to convince cities and towns that they want attached townhouses. They want these things called cottage clusters, or kind of smaller scale housing that is not where every house has to be frontage with a driveway on a street. So there's all this innovative zoning and planning stuff of which a lot of people are writing, that we need to both show people that it works to bring down the cost of land, because a smaller lot means you can amortize your land costs over more units if you're a developer, and your infrastructure costs per linear foot of road, water, sewer, and pipe is really expensive. So smaller homes on smaller lots all that innovative stuff, condos, duplexes, townhouses. That's on the land side, right? The second side is lumber, which, second L is lumber, which is really a metaphor for all of the inputs into construction costs. And the cost of inputs into single-family construction is up 42% since January 2020. So that's where you don't have a lot of wiggle room, right? Because a lot of that was supply chain restrictions during COVID. Lumber went up to over $1,000 a board, for 1,000 board feet. You know, a lot of the inputs into construction are imported, whether it's drywall or Canadian lumber or components of electronics. So this is where tariffs are not helpful for home building, and the National Association of Home Builders is very clear on that. So the third L, of course, is lending. Interest rates are a killer right now. So again, if you want to do as a region anything that's affordable or kind of innovative, you're going to have to come up with a source of cheap lending, right? So that's really maximizing all your sources you have to kind of blend down and buy down those interest rates for developers. In our state, it's 1% loans for the infrastructure. That's a way to kind of bring down the cost. So what did I say? Land, lumber, lending, and of course labor. We have a huge labor shortage in Dane County. Even if I waved my magic wand and we got the zoning and the financing in place to build the 7,000 units a year we need, we don't have the workers. And construction employment in Wisconsin has just last month reached back to the peak of what we had in 2006. So you all have that problem too, right? There's just not enough workers, and that means we have to think about partnership with community and technical colleges. We want, you know, I'm a college professor. I know the UK have folks here, but we also want to say to young people, you don't have to go to college. Like, go into the trades. We have a desperate shortage of people in the trades. You know, factory modular robot built housing is always on the horizon to innovate and speed up construction, but it's not there yet. And then, of course, we have to name the elephant in the room, which is about 30 to 40% of people working in construction are foreign born. And so tighter immigration policies would put an additional pinch. Our construction workforce is aging. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be out there framing a roof in a Wisconsin winter or a Texas summer. So we may have to get innovative in terms of factory-built modular prefab. And then I think the fifth was legislation, which is a supportive legal environment, whether it's expedited permit approval, zoning reform, all of those. So it's a multifaceted problem, and we have to work on all of those. And yeah, it's a huge hole we've dug ourselves. I mean, the truth is that you have to make it worth. So what I always tell a municipality is sit down with a home builder and ask them to give you a project sheet that tells you how much everything costs. And if you keep saying, oh, you got to do brick instead of aluminum side, and if you got to do an 80-foot lot width instead of 40-foot lot width, that just adds to the cost. And then you kind of jerk them around for 2 or 3 years with the permits, and you wonder why they're going to build a $500,000 home instead of a $350,000 home.
DevelopLex is also sponsored by Community Trust Bank. Hi there, this is Cam Dacey, Commercial Loan Officer at Community Trust Bank and avid DevelopLex and Middle Tech podcast listener. Community Trust offers a wide variety of home loans, commercial loans, and small business loans to suit your financial needs, as well as mobile banking, internet banking, and bill pay. Their friendly and professional staff would love to assist you at one of their 6 Lexington locations. Community Trust Bank is committed to building communities built on trust. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, subject to credit approval.
So talking about the process of home building, something that was said was that you have to build at whatever cost. But there are a couple L's that are mentioned. And it was land, lending, labor, and legislation. As we think about that, one of my favorite sayings is form follows finance. So, are the banks able to lend on that project? Are they interested in lending in that area? And this is a big, multifaceted problem that we have to look at. But one of the things that we have an opportunity in Lexington, not to bring up the urban services boundary, but if we were the first people to put that boundary in, we should be the first people to come up with the model city of how to operate within it and not just be constantly fighting and elbowing each other to figure out who's going to come out on top. There's a solution somewhere in this, and we have to figure it out. So, lumber, lending, legislation, and labor. That's the ingredients, and the solution is in those L's somewhere and making a win out of it. Logan Jones and I are really thankful for Commerce Lexington and inviting us on the trip to see, feel, and learn everything that Madison had to offer and see what we can bring back to Lexington. So, if you hear things here that relate to community development, economic development, or real estate development, let's make it happen. If you're like, wow, that's an aha moment, but you keep it to yourself, it's not doing Lexington a disservice. And we want to grow. So reach out to one of us, reach out to Commerce Lexington, and let's build something. These lessons from Madison shouldn't just sit on a shelf, shouldn't just sit in the podcast library. We have a lot to learn about how they went through land use constraints and came out ahead, where people want to live in the city. People want to be a part of their communities. At the costs, elevated as they are, people still do. So as we're wrapping up, things that Madison did really well was land use. They had physical boundaries that they said, okay, we can't grow out, we can't grow up, but we're still gonna grow. We're not gonna fight over it. We're going to get it done and make a vibrant heartbeat for a downtown. That has been contagious to where so many people want to come to Madison, not just for school and go somewhere else, go back home, but people want to stay. That there are massive multipliers to the applications that get put into their main employers in Madison for the fraction that get accepted. And then those fraction that get accepted, they get to enjoy a city that has vibrancy. Something that Lexington really, we think we have a vibrant city, but going to Madison, they've really got us beat. And knowing that cities like that are our competition to being a lively place, or a place that one candidate might choose over us, we've got to know that that's our competition. So, knowing it's our competition now, let's build something. Is that a great landmark athletic event? An NCAA tournament? Is that another World Equestrian Games caliber event? But we have to have something that turns into a big welcome mat so that visitors from all around the world can see what we love about Lexington. That then needs to be accompanied by those love notes, like Peter Kayagama says, that are those fun little intricate, quirky things that a city has. That it's the murals, it's the bike buses, it's the things that make Lexington not bland. And let's put those in place. That crazy idea you have, let's do it. So, Madison has had a great success story with land use, with economic development through jobs, and everybody's still struggling with the housing. Lexington, we were the first ones to put an urban services boundary in place. So, taking that credit, we also carry the burden to be the first ones to come up with a model city that says this is what every other city that cares about our land around us should do, and we're going to be something that other cities want to come to Lexington to study us the way that the Lexingtonians went up to Madison for. So, if you're in, I'm in. Know that I'm excited to build a great American city with you all, and I look forward to doing that.